saw two visions. One was really small, and it was a home. It looked like a cabin, and a man walked in, and right there was an entryway with sort of a place to hang your hat and put your shoes, and it was all wooden inside like a cabin. And he came in and he took off his coat and he walked into the living room, and it was warm and inviting, and there was a fireplace and the fire was going, and when he came in you could see that it was heavily snowing outside. He sat in this lounge chair. When he sat there, I got this distinct feeling that he was representing Santa Claus. It was very strange. He looked just like him. But he sat in this recliner, and then he turned over on his side, and then he disappeared sort of into the chair, and the spirit left him. And that was all that I saw with that vision. And it was very clearly a vision. It was, and that was on Sunday. And then from Sunday to today, I had been praying over a vision, and this one started with a group of people being lowered into a cavern, and soon was with them, and they were dressed in sort of like explorer type outfits, the khaki clothes and the hat, and you could tell they were on a journey. And they're lowered into this cavern with, I don't know, just sort of like a wooden type of, elevator, but not, it was open. It wasn't like an elevator in a building. It was just sort of like maybe made out of wood and bamboo or something. And they were lowered into this dark cavern. And when they got down there, Soon had a map in his hands, and he pointed a certain way, and they all went, and they followed, and they went this way. And he said out loud, "We'll be protected." Something along those lines. And he pointed to the water. And so he led them into the water and through this tunnel. But the water was pretty shallow. It was a dark tunnel, and it was low, so they had to kind of bend over a little bit to go through it. And it was about maybe to your knee, maybe a little bit higher, and they just kind of crouched over and walked through this small tunnel to the other side. And once they got around, it was sort of like straight and over to the left a little bit, and they went around this corner. And they kind of went up these stairs, and he kind of peeked out. There was these holes that you can look out of, and it was very bright out. And he or someone looked out of, you could see their eyes looking very clearly, that there were eyes looking out through these holes. And then they opened the door and went. And it was this really vast desert, and it was pretty dry and really, really bright. And you could tell that it would be, scorching hot and not comfortable to be in. But as soon as they got out into this desert, immediately these trees, they shot up into the sky and made a canopy. And they were these, thin trees, maybe 2 inches, 3 inches thick, and no branches until the very, very top. And they kind of spread out into a canopy, like ferns, kind of like a canopy of ferns or something. Anyway, and so they traveled a little bit, very short time actually, in this desert. In fact, I don't know how much they stayed there. It didn't seem like they stayed there long at all. He had his map, and they went and took their exit out of this desert. And they went off to the left, and there's this huge rock, this boulder, this rock, and it had a stairway built into the side of it. So he led them up this stone stairway, up to the stairway, and in the side of this rock. And when they got to the top of the stairway, they kind of came to this place where it was this dome, this wicker basket is what I liken it to, but it was like this dome, and they were all in it, and it looked like, it's really hard to explain, it looked sort of like maybe a cage or a basket that you'd put over food, or I'm so sorry. Anyway, you get the idea that, and then they were all inside, almost like trapped. Well, this woman lifts up the basket, and they're all about a couple inches tall, and she's huge. She's a giant, and she's a witch doctor of some sort. She's African American. She's a witch doctor, and she is just enormous. And she grabs the group, and she wants to sort of devour them. She wants to eat their flesh. I know that sounds intense, but that's just the way that it is. She grabbed them. Oh, I'm so sorry. Before she lifted up that lid and grabbed them, she was already devouring flesh. She had flesh and she was eating it. And then she lifted up that basket and she grabbed them to also do the same. And this is a little PG-13. And she put them over her mouth, and like a single person kind of fell in and went down into her stomach, through her. You could kind of see the person go through, just kind of flopping. Oh, I know that sounds terrible. Around down into like the stomach acids, and that's all. And then she takes them and lines them up and begins to take her fingers. She had like these sharp, creepy nails, and she takes her fingers and she starts to flick them down one by one by one. They all fall down, except for when they get to the end, Soon is there, and she flicks him and he won't go down. He won't go down. He won't go down. He won't go down. And then he has this rope in his hands, and he pulls them, all the people that were knocked down, he pulls them all up, and they start to leave. And she stands up to stomp on them, to crush them. And there's all of a sudden some sort of barrier, like a plexiglass or something, because it's see-through. And she tries to stomp on them, but she can't do it. She can't do it at all. And they walk out and they leave this place. And then the next thing you see is there is they come upon this archway, this door, this archway, and the door frame is painted with, I believe it was the blood of the lamb, signifying the blood of the lamb, but then it was now the glory of the lamb. It was like white and sparkling, like almost like a firecracker that was painted on over this door. And Soon stood in front of the door, or on the side of the door, and sort of ushered the people in, like with his hands, like being like, let's go, on the side, how you would do that. And he just had them all go in. He just kind of, motioned with his hands, go ahead. And then when everybody was through, it was his turn to go through. And when he went through, right before he went through, he rolled up his map and put it back, sort of in his backpack or whatever. And then he had to kind of climb over this stone, maybe it's 2 feet, 3 feet tall, this stone little wall, just kind of climb over with his legs. And I believe it's meant to represent the law. So he climbed over that stone. And then once inside this area where they ended up, it was jungle. And I know I've seen the jungle before with the thick, rich, like greenery and things like that. And that's where the vision ended.